You've trained hard for years, maybe even decades. You're disciplined, consistent, and driven, but lately your body isn't keeping up. Persistent injuries, chronic pain, or frustrating plateaus are stifling your progress. At Unity Gym, we believe unlocking your body's full potential means confronting weaknesses head on. Instead of avoiding painful exercises, we focus on tackling them with the right guidance. Progress comes from turning weak links into strengths, allowing you to keep moving, rebuild smarter, and become stronger than ever. We achieve this through our unique system that corrects imbalances between opposing muscle groups, ensures symmetry from left to right, and aligns strength with flexibility. We also balance deep, stabilizing muscles with the larger, visible movers and build equal power between your upper and lower body. The result? A body that's powerful, flexible, and resilient. Whether you're an athlete chasing peak performance or someone who's tired of being sidelined by injury, our proven unified movement system will transform how your body moves and feels permanently. In today's live stream, I'm going to be going deep into structural balance training. I've been working on a document with my brother Yanni to explain structural balance training because we get so many questions about it. And I'm really going to be reading out our first draft of it because so many people ask, what's structural balance training? Why should you do it? And so this is something that we're going to be adding to our website soon. And I'm going to be sharing it with you guys. So here it is. This is what structural balance training is. And before I get into it, the boring stuff, if you're watching on YouTube and you like this stuff, you like this content, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get a structurally balanced body, if what I just said resonates with you and you want to get that, head over to unitygym.com and get started with us. Okay, so the 5 pillars of structural balance training. Well, actually, the introduction to structural balance training. Structural balance training is the foundation of a resilient, high-performing body. Unlike traditional strength training, which often focuses on isolated muscle groups, structural balance training ensures the body develops strength, flexibility, and stability in harmony. This method prioritizes symmetry between muscle groups and across joints, reducing the risk of injury and optimizing movement efficiency. If you're the kind of person who pushes their body to the limit, getting structural balance right isn't optional, it's essential. If you ignore it, pain and injuries will eventually force you to stop training the way you want. Even elite athletes have suffered the consequences of imbalance, with the legendary bodybuilders like Ronnie Coleman developing severe joint issues due to years of pushing through imbalance-related injuries. Now, on a side note, this is something that those of you who are in your 20s and maybe even early 30s haven't felt yet. You haven't felt what happens to your body when you don't train for structural balance. But those of us in our late 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond, we've felt it. We've felt what years of neglect from not training for structural balance does to our body. It is painful, and often the lessons come far too late when we're dealing with injuries that we just can't get rid of. But guess what? When you start training for structural balance, these things just seem to vanish because the body returns to homeostasis. So what is it? The 5 pillars of structural balance training. Number 1 is left to right symmetry. A structurally balanced body has equal strength and flexibility between the left and right sides. When one arm or leg is stronger or more mobile than the other, the body compensates, leading to inefficient movement patterns, decreased performance, and increased risk of injury. Example, a right-handed tennis player may develop excessive strength in their dominant arm, leading to overuse injuries. Structural balance training ensures both arms develop evenly, reducing strain on joints and tendons. The corrective approach is unilateral exercises. Things like Bulgarian split squats, single arm rows, and single leg deadlifts address side-to-side discrepancies. We can also use isometric holds, where exercises like a one-legged glute bridge highlight and correct strength imbalances. Number 2 in structural balance is balance between antagonistic muscle groups. Muscles work in pairs. One contracts while the other relaxes. Structural balance training ensures that opposing muscle groups maintain equal strength and flexibility, preventing instability and injury. Common muscle imbalances: elbow joint, biceps and triceps, knee joint, quadriceps and hamstrings, shoulder joint, internal rotators like the pecs and lats versus external rotators like the rotator cuff. If the quadriceps overpower the hamstrings, for example, the risk of ACL injuries increases dramatically. Corrective approach: push-pull training. Pair pushing exercises, bench press, shoulder press, with pulling exercises, pull-ups and rows to maintain muscle balance. Hamstring to quadricep strength ratio. The hamstrings should be relatively the same strength, or relatively have a relative strength ratio to the quadriceps to maintain knee integrity. Rotator cuff strengthening. External rotation exercises offset the overuse of internal rotators from bench pressing and overhead lifting. Number 3 is upper and lower body strength balance. A structurally balanced athlete must develop upper and lower body strength proportionately. Many people overemphasize their upper or lower body, leading to inefficiencies in movement and increased risk of injury. Corrective approach is training splits. Implement balanced training days such as bent arm strength, pull-ups and presses versus lower body strength, squats and deadlifts. Relative strength standards. Athletes should be able to produce lower body strength and upper body strength proportionately. Number 4 is balance between stabilizers and prime movers, or AKA balance between the inner unit and outer unit of muscles. Every major joint has inner unit stabilizers that provide control and outer unit prime movers that generate power. When stabilizers are weak, prime movers compensate, leading to joint dysfunction, pain, and injuries. Example of inner versus outer unit muscles. In the shoulder, rotator cuff and scapular stabilizers versus pecs, deltoids, and lats. In the hip, piriformis and deep core muscles versus glutes, hamstrings, and hip flexors. In the core, transverse abdominis and obliques versus rectus abdominis. One major issue caused by this imbalance is joint glide. For example, the humerus, the upper arm bone, so this bone here, sits in the glenohumeral joint, shoulder joint, and is held in place by the rotator cuff. This ball and socket joint is designed to rotate like this, so to rotate and to pivot like this. And it is held in place by the rotator cuff. Sorry, I said that. When the rotator cuff is weak and the prime movers are too dominant, the humerus moves laterally, gliding forward, backwards, up and down. One of the leading causes of shoulder pain. This can be corrected by balancing inner and outer unit strength. So the corrective approach is rotator cuff training, things like face pulls, external rotations, and core control, anti-rotation and anti-extension exercises like Pallof press and dead bugs, enhance core stability. Hip stability drills, glute medius activation drills prevent excessive knee valgus, knee caving in during squats. And finally, the balance between strength and flexibility. And this is really the fifth element of the unified movement system, because other structural balance training programs deal with those 4 imbalances, but we're yet to see one that also addresses the balance between strength and flexibility. Strength without flexibility leads to stiffness and reduced range of motion. Flexibility without strength creates instability and vulnerability to injury. True structural balance requires mobility, active flexibility, paired with strength at every joint. Common imbalances. A strong lifter who can squat 200 kilograms, or I think that's 440 pounds, but can't touch their toes. Or a hypermobile yogi who can fold forward effortlessly but can't perform a strict pull-up. Corrective approach is to train strength and flexibility together and maintain a 1-to-1 ratio of strength to flexibility exercises in every workout. Do not separate them into different sessions. The idea that you will do a strength training session and a flexibility session is one of the most flawed approaches, because inevitably life will get busy and you will have to choose one or the other, and you will favor the one that you want to see the best results in, and the imbalance will maintain. Loaded stretching, using weighted flexibility exercises to strengthen muscles in lengthened positions. Strength at end range, incorporate isometric contractions at extreme ranges. For example, active front split holds. Why structural balance matters. Let's move on to why this matters. First is injury prevention. Structural imbalances place excessive strain on joints, increasing the risk of injury. A weak rotator cuff, for instance, leads to shoulder impingement, just as hamstring weaknesses raise the risk of ACL tears. Number 2 is increased strength and performance. A well-balanced body moves more efficiently, allowing athletes to generate more force with less effort, maintain joint integrity under heavy loads, and avoid compensation patterns that lead to fatigue and injury. Number 3 is faster rehabilitation from injuries. Many chronic injuries stem from structural imbalances. Training for balance often resolves pain naturally as movement patterns improve. Examples: shoulder pain, strengthening rotator cuff muscles and scapular stabilizers reduces strain on the prime movers like the deltoids, pecs, and lats. Knee pain, strengthening hamstrings and glutes alleviates stress on the quadriceps tendon. How to incorporate structural balance training. Assess your weaknesses, identify imbalances through strength testing and mobility assessments. Program with ratios in mind. Follow optimal strength balance ratios between opposing muscle groups. Prioritize unilateral and stability work, so single limb exercises and stability drills should be staples in every training cycle. And integrate flexibility and strength. Never separate mobility work from strength training. Train them together in every session. And the conclusion: structural balance training is the missing link to long-term progress in fitness, sports, and rehabilitation, especially for those of us that are getting older. By addressing imbalances across left to right, antagonistic muscles, upper and lower body, stabilizers versus prime movers, and strength versus flexibility, you can train harder, recover faster, and move pain-free for life. Implement these principles into your training and experience the benefits of a stronger, more flexible, and injury-resilient body. That's it, guys. That's what I'm working on at the moment. This is version 1, so we're going to flesh this out, of course, and build a lot more into it. But I wanted to share it with you guys. I wanted to read it out loud as well, so that I could get some, so that I could hear myself say it. Aidan has jumped on YouTube and said, hello, good morning, Aidan, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for tuning in, mate. And I hope you guys got something out of this. Structural balance training has completely changed my life. My body started to break down. My story is that when I got out of the army, I was 34 when I got out of the army, and I'd fractured my spine, had a pars fracture, a bilateral pars fracture in L4 when I was on deployment, serving as an infantry soldier. Over the next couple of years, that developed into spondylolisthesis and spondylosis in L4 and L5, and I was in severe pain when I got out of the army. Every day I was in pain. I had to pop painkillers. Couldn't stand on my feet for more than 5 or 10 minutes without being in a lot of pain, which was really bad as a personal trainer. I had to sit down when I was doing my training sessions. And so I worked really, really hard to overcome that pain, and I did. I successfully rehabilitated my back, overcame that pain, but I wasn't training for structural balance. And so now all of a sudden I had no pain in my lower back, and I decided that I wanted to start pursuing flexibility training and calisthenics. And my body started to break down because I was doing exactly what I'm describing here, what most people do. I made the same mistake. I was in my mid to late 30s. I was about 36 or 37 when I started this journey on calisthenics and flexibility training. And my body just started getting injured systematically, pretty much. First, I got injured. Basically, the injuries occurred in the smallest, weakest joints and moved up to the strongest joints. So my first injuries were in my wrist from doing handstands. Couldn't do handstands for a year. Then I started to get, I didn't start to. I got such a severe case of golfer's and tennis elbow that I couldn't do any pulling movements for a very long time. Almost a year took me to rehabilitate that. And then the worst of it, I got slap tears in both shoulders, torn rotator cuffs, and a few other things in my shoulders. And it became very, very clear that my body wasn't capable of doing what I was asking of it to do. And so I worked with some incredible coaches to really understand structural balance training, and worked with my brother, Yanni, who had a really good understanding of it because he'd worked directly with Charles Poliquin, the godfather of structural balance training. And we worked to create what we now call the unified movement system, because the problem is that, I was writing structural balance workouts for myself, but they didn't include flexibility because nobody could show us how to include flexibility with our training. All the flexibility coaches that I approached, flexibility was a separate thing. And so I was forced to do a flexibility workout once a day and a strength training workout for structural balance at another time of the day. And it was just way too much on my life. I just didn't have the time to manage that. And so Yanni and I were forced to find a better way to train. And we created the unified movement system over the next several years to combine strength and flexibility into the same structurally balanced workout. And since then, I was able to overcome all of the injuries that I had and without surgery, and become stronger and more flexible than I've ever been. So that now in my late 40s, I turned 47 in 2 months, I am able to perform far better than I could when I was 27. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and it's something now that the further we go down this path, the more we see that people over the age of 35 really need to hear this, really need to understand that if you want to push your body, if you want to push yourself to achieve things that you haven't achieved before, or even to get back to the state of strength and fitness that you had in your 20s, structural balance training is essential. It is not an option. If you want to do it without pain, without injury, and if you want to be able to do it for the rest of your life, which most of us do, most of us in our late 30s and beyond are coming to that point where we're realizing that health and fitness and being able to play the sports that we want to do, whether it's pickleball or basketball or soccer or rock climbing or martial arts or whatever it is, that we really want to be able to do that as we continue to age. We don't want that to be something that we could do when we were younger, but it's a distant memory. And if that's you, then structural balance training is essential. It is something that you really need to do. So if you want to learn more about it, go to unitygym.com. You can work with me directly. I do online coaching where I write customized structural balance training programs for people that people feel the effects of immediately. Within the first week, people start to feel better. Within a month, they're feeling incredibly better. And within 3 months, they're in a new body. Like 90% of the aches and pains that they had are just gone. So if that's something that you want, head over to unitygym.com. And if you've made it this far, please take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're watching on Instagram or TikTok, follow us, please. It really helps the algorithm to tell the algorithm that this is valuable content so that we can get it out there and get it out to more people. And Aiden, a dark and cold England, huh? It's still nice and warm here at Avoca Beach in Australia. We're about to get hit by a cyclone, though. Can you believe it? Since 1974, this is the first cyclone that has ever will make land south of somewhere in Australia called Fraser Island. Fraser Island is in South Queensland. So cyclones are something that happen in the tropics, right? And this cyclone is well below the tropics. It's the first time in, 51 years that a cyclone will have made land south of Fraser Island. So a lot of people are preparing for it in northern New South Wales, where where a lot of Alana, my wife, and our family live. They're preparing for a Category 2, potentially Category 3 cyclone, and we're already feeling it down here. The oceans, the waves are like gnarly at the moment. When my son and I went down for a swim yesterday at Avoca Beach, we didn't dare go in the water because the waves were just so intense, and we're preparing for some pretty heavy rain. Maybe some strong winds here. We're not going to be getting cyclone strength winds, but some strong rain and some impressive swells. So yeah, we're getting ready for that over here in Australia. It's going to make land at some time tonight, I think sometime on Thursday night. So yeah, there you go. Getting ready for cyclones. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. It's Thursday over here. I'll be with you next week. Sorry I didn't get a live stream done on Tuesday. I had to interview another one of our members for an incredible testimonial. I interviewed one of our tribe members named Anuj, who came to work with me because he has spondylolisthesis and he was in crippling back pain, and he's come from that to being able to deadlift and squat and be pain-free and garden and play with his kids. And so it's a really impressive story. So I had to record that on Tuesday, so I couldn't do my live show, but I look forward to sharing that with you guys pretty soon. I'll be uploading that video soon to YouTube so that you guys can all have a look at it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're tuning in late, go and watch the replay on YouTube. This is a really valuable episode teaching about structural balance training. So if you tuned in late, go over to YouTube, watch the replay. And I'll see you guys all next week. Have a wonderful day. See you, Aiden. Have a wonderful day, mate. Keep your videos coming in the UMS forums where I'm coaching you. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day of training. Hope that wherever you are in the world, you're happy, healthy, and safe. And thank you for giving me your attention. Thank you for giving me your love. And I'll see you all soon. Now I just have to find where to end this stream.